We got Ted Nugent versus Bryce Young on Thursday Night Football. Exciting matchup here. Panthers and the fucking Chicago Bears. No Justin Fields, man. You ready to do this shit?
As ready as I can ever be. What is up, guys? Welcome to the Edge DFS. My name is Tyson Smith, joined by Ellie Hernandez. Ellie, this is not a great game on paper for our viewing pleasure, most likely, but I feel like this is a pretty good game for DFS. Sometimes these shitty showdown games cannot be so awesome, but I think there's some value to be had here, and I think people just check out after a certain point. Like, they see Panthers and Bears, they go on their phone, they build a couple lineups, and they don't really dig too deep, because who the hell would want to, right? But we dug deep today, and I feel pretty good about this, man. What are your thoughts overall on this matchup? Panthers going into Chicago. It'll be a little chilly, but nothing notable.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing on the surface here is just this is one of those slates. It's very easy to fall in love with some stuff, and then about halfway into the first quarter, realize you're fucked because you got two garbage teams just ending up in garbage scores. So, look, man, this is going to be a fun one to build for, I think, and just because of the sloppiness we can expect from both teams, I think we can really kind of build with for a wide range of outcomes on this one.
Yeah, man, you never know what's going to happen in a game like this. Like, there's like 1,000 different possibilities. So when I'm building, I'm really going to have game scripts in mind. I'm going to absolutely try to get as many possible GPP lineups as I possibly can that my bankroll will allow for, and then spread myself out a little bit. But I got a couple bold takes, and I'm sure you do too. So let's jump into this. Carolina Panthers are 3.5-point dogs going up against Tyson Bagent, whatever the hell this guy's name is. It's a 38.5-point total. Justin Fields is a doubtful / 51% chance / out / whatever the hell Eberflus is saying in his press conference. He's not going to play. There's no reason to play this guy. He's going to take the 10 days after this to get better and try to run the rest of this year out, try to prove that he's the starting quarterback for this team for the future. How is it possible that the Bears are favorites here with their backup quarterback? Like, are the Panthers that bad, dude?
I really don't think so. I do think that this should be closer to a pick 'em, but if we just go with the normal 3 points to the home team, this really isn't too crazy, right? I mean, I think this is probably a game the Bears should win, but Carolina's pretty solid, man. Their offensive line sucks. Their offensive or their wide receivers are pretty slow, but
ass.
their defense is doing pretty good, right? They have some areas of opportunity when it comes to the run game, but I don't think a lot of the issues that we've seen from this team comes from Bryce Young. And
No.
Let me clarify what I mean by solid, right? Like I think that they have pieces to build around. I don't think they're a good team yet. But look, man, I think Bryce Young's Panthers should be favored to beat the Ted Nugent's fucking Bears. You know what I mean? Like I don't know that this is a realistic expectation for a defense that's had one good game last week, right, with Chicago.
Yeah. I mean, look, the Bears, obviously they went out and got Sweat, signed him to a long-term contract. I don't expect that to help much, but they're the last-ranked pass rush in the league, going up against a absolutely dog shit offensive line when it comes to stopping the pass rush. So who's going to break here? I don't know. It feels like to me, just watching some videos, watching some JT O'Sullivan breakdowns on this offense and the quarterback, that this offense is just very stagnant. And even though they have some talented players, they're not really setting up Bryce Young for success. Three-step drop. These dudes are not even out of their breaks yet. It really just feels like they're lacking speed on the outside. But look, I honestly think that in a game like this, like, are we expecting both defenses? Is this a kicker type game? I know it's a low total, but what are you thinking as far as offensively, players that we can kind of rest our hats on that we can believe that they can actually score some damn points in this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, man, I think it's interesting, right? I want to get into more specifics on that, but I think just generally speaking, we got to really determine what's going to happen here. Like something's got to give. Like the Carolina Panthers defense, they're middle of the pack, a little bit better than middle of the pack. Bears, they fucking suck. So yeah, they've been better as of late, but both these offenses are pretty dog shit too. So which one is going to overcome, right? Like, are the offenses going to outperform the shitty defenses? And that's what I'm leaning towards. I think that this game's probably going to hit the over, right? Again, I think this is a game for sloppy touchdowns. I don't know if it necessarily needs to be a pick six, but a blown coverage turning into a 65-yard touchdown is definitely something I can expect from a game like this. So, I don't know, man. I think we can get into the specifics when we start doing, the lineup build and building for game scripts. But you really got to come in. I think this is an over for me.
I'm asking you impossible questions to answer, by the way. Just letting you know that there's really no answer to some of these questions. We're seeing DJ Moore on the field a lot. He has a undrafted free agent throwing him the football. So earlier this year, when it was announced that Tyson Bagent was the backup, I kind of scratched my head a little bit and go, really? Because Justin Fields, this guy likes to run the ball. He's gonna probably miss a few games. But here, we're here. This is where we're at. Darnell Mooney had a sort of a breakout game last week. Looked a lot better. Cole Kmet had 2 touchdowns in that game. He's on the field a lot, but he's got a little knee injury. So let's actually look at our injuries here, because there is a lot to talk about.
Yeah, just pain. It was pain everywhere.
So, obviously, I skipped over the weather. It's going to be a little chilly. Nothing really to worry about in Chicago. The big news here is obviously Justin Fields not going to play, most likely. They have him as doubtful, but he's not going to play. No reason to play him. But we got Khalil Herbert coming back from the IR. Now, he's questionable, though. So if you look at him in practice, he practiced full all week. I think he'll play. I mean, if he's practicing full all week, he should play, but who knows? They got basically a 3-headed monster if he's active. They got Foreman, who's been absolutely crushing. Khalil Herbert, who was doing very good earlier in the year. And you got Roschon Johnson, who looks to be the future of this backfield that they drafted. So how does that work out? We'll get into that in a minute, but it's not going to be pretty. We're going to have to kind of figure out ways around this. I feel like, to me, Herbert comes back and is active and maybe gets a little bit of run. Maybe long-term he takes over for Deontay Foreman on first and second down, but Foreman still maybe gets the goal line opportunities, and then Roschon gets those third down passing opportunities / pass blocking. That's how it works out in my head, but who knows how it's going to actually go down. So who else do we have here on the Bears side? Equanimeous St. Brown is possibly coming back this week. He's questionable, but he had 3 straight practices full. Now, when I say full practices, these are not real practices. The first 2 games were like walkthroughs, and then the first 2 practices were walkthroughs. Wednesday was a walkthrough light. So we'll see if Equanimeous St. Brown is back. He's an incredible blocker. I think they need him in that outside spot, instead of Tyler Scott, who, has been okay, but hasn't really done well this year. I think they're going to plug him right back in if he's active, and he's cheap as hell. So there's plenty of value to talk about, but we got Cole Kmet, who doesn't carry a designation. He had a little knee injury pop up. He was DNP on Monday, but he's practiced full. He should be good to go. Tremaine Edmonds is out. Nate Davis is out. Kerry Blasingame, who's the fullback, is out. Let's go to the other side. The big news here that came in earlier today was DJ Chark is out. Now, that doesn't seem like huge news, but now we've got a shitload of value to talk about here when it comes to the pass catchers and the wide receivers for Carolina. But the bigger news here is Brian Burns is out. That's a big deal. CJ Henderson out. I don't have to lose all my money on Laviska Shenault because he's not playing. Questionable. We got some defensive backs that are questionable, man. So we got to keep an eye on these inactives. Because as of right now, this defense is like you said, it's not great. They're struggling a bit, and if they have more guys out, that's gonna make it tough. So what do we do with DJ Chark if he's out? Feels like Terrace Marshall. Feels like some of these guys. We got Mingo. Minko's got a bad matchup potentially, and so does Terrace Marshall. Looks like Adam Thielen, who's what, 6th in receptions this year. He's having a great year. He's in the slot. He doesn't have to get worried to matching up against one of the best corners in the league on Chicago. So what do we do with this DJ Chark news?
Yeah, man. Look, I like Terrace Marshall, but I think that's more just me chasing, to be honest. I liked him in a little bit in best ball. I liked him a little bit last year, and he's just a guy who never really has had that opportunity. But look, man, if he's active and yeah, I mean, he's what, $200, so he's probably a guy that I'm gonna have a little bit of exposure to. But look, man, like I think. Again, I just really think it comes down to what you're expecting out of this Panthers offense. Watching, I mean, you and I were both watching the same game tape, man. That shit looks rough. They're not calling plays that work for Bryce Young. They're not giving him enough time to let routes develop, right? So, like, it doesn't matter if you have fucking Randy Moss out there. You know, if you can't get the ball out before the wide receiver breaks, it doesn't matter. So, yeah, man. Just from a gambling perspective, though, $200. I don't mind Terrace Marshall. We'll have some exposure to him when we start building here.
So a couple matchup things to talk about here briefly. We got Cody Main, who is constantly shows up on our show from tweets. Roll from Chuba Hubbard since week 7 bye has been legit. 70% rush share, 50% routes, 13% target share, 82% short down and distance, et cetera, et cetera. Seems like he's the guy, clearly. Miles Sanders has sort of fallen back, although last week Miles Sanders had a much more efficient game than Chuba Hubbard. Looks like this is Chuba Hubbard's backfield. Now, does that really matter in this game? Like, am I going to play a shitload of Chuba Hubbard at 8K? I don't know. Maybe. We'll talk about that. See, obviously it's not a great matchup. If you look at this Bears run defense, allowing 3.23 yards per carry to running backs, 3rd in EPA per play, 4th in rushing success, and they have not allowed any running back to clear over 75 yards against them. 3.2 yards per carry, like I said. Look, to me, Chuba Hubbard is the guy, but just because he's the guy, do I want to play him? What are your thoughts on Hubbard as we move forward here?
Look, man, I kind of like him. I think this is a decent opportunity for him. I know the Bears are giving up points to pass catching running backs. And I think that's something that we've kind of just been looking for Chuba. He hasn't necessarily been excelling that. Right here. Chicago ranks 1st in passing yards per game allowed to opposite RBs. Right. So this is a good, again, we talked about it on a couple different slates here. This is a get right spot. I think this is an opportunity for Chuba Hubbard to get involved in, the screen game and maybe have a potential explosive play. But at 8K, he really does need a touchdown to really pay that off.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm worried about here. If you look at Chuba Hubbard, you're seeing in the pass game on the far right here, he's just not getting a ton of targets. Now, last week he did get 6 targets and 4 receptions, only for 9 yards. But you're looking at 2 targets, 1, 2, 2, 3, 0, 0. Obviously, earlier in the year, Miles Sanders was more involved. It just, he's getting 16 carries, 15 carries, 19 carries, but he just hasn't really gotten there. The best game of the year was against the Dolphins with his only touchdown on the year. So if you're playing Chuba Hubbard, to me, you're relying on a goal line touchdown or some big play at him, and you're relying on like the 6+ targets, 4 receptions, and maybe a couple more yards out of him. All right, let's get into this breakdown. We're going to go position by position here. Let's do it. Stand by. Here we go. Break it down. Break it down. So Justin Fields, like we said, is out. Clearly, he's 11.4K. We don't have to worry about that. Bryce Young, 9,800. Ted Nugent, 9,200. What are we doing with these quarterbacks, man? We saw it in a slate, last showdown slate, where we didn't have any quarterbacks in the opto. Is this another situation where maybe we don't need to play the quarterbacks in a game like this, where maybe we want to get some defenses, maybe we want to get some kickers, and we want to get some running backs and pass catchers? Maybe we don't have room for these quarterbacks. What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, man. Look, normally I'd be on board with it, but I think one thing that we just need to keep an eye on is Tyson Bagent. He's had a little bit more carries week to week. He had 2 in his first game, 3, 4, and then last week he had 8 attempts for 70 yards. If that's something that we're expecting to continue, especially against like I don't know, man. Like the Carolina defense it's good enough. It might put him in situations where he's just more prompt or more apt to tuck and run. I think it's something worth considering. So yeah, probably don't need both quarterbacks, but I do think Ted Nugent is an interesting play, even at captain with the potential upside that he has in rushing.
Yeah, brother Phil brought up a pretty interesting point in the Discord. For whatever reason, only Miami and Seattle have eclipsed 250 passing yards versus Carolina. Nobody has exceeded 300 yards. 4 opponents failing to reach 150 yards. So whatever reason, even though, according to PFF and some of these other grades, they're not really grading out well as a good secondary, but teams just aren't passing on them a lot. Now, to me, they're down in these games. Like they're 1-7, they're down. And they're giving up a shitload of run yards. I think that's probably what it is. So right? I mean, is that what we're thinking is going on here? Because I couldn't really nail down as to like why those numbers existed.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's my theory. I think it's a bit anecdotal, right? I was trying to look up time spent trailing so that I could at least have some kind of data to support it. But I mean, it feels like it. You're a fucking 1-8 team. You've probably been losing most of the season. It makes sense that teams are just going to run the ball at you. They have no reason to throw for 350 yards up 10 points. Right. So
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think it's worth considering. But again, it's anecdotal at best. We'll continue to try to research and see if we can get more data on that.
Yeah, make sure you guys are in the Discord. We're obviously in there, especially leading up to lock for Thursday night. But we got NBA, we've got football, we've got a lot of stuff going on in there. Dante Foreman, sorry, 8,600. He's been crushing, dude. He's looked good. I think he's ranked he's like the 8th ranked running back according to PFF right now overall, because he's been looking damn good. But Khalil Herbert at 4,200 is slated to come back. He's questionable, but he had full week practice. We have to kind of figure out what's going on tomorrow as inactives come out. I'm leaning towards he plays, but the problem is if he is active, what's his role and how much will he be involved? Are they going to rush him back knowing that they have a guy like Dante Foreman with one hell of a revenge narrative? And you also got Roshan Johnson there. So you got a 3-headed monster. It looks like Darrington Evans is the odd man out here. To me, I don't, we've seen Dante Foreman with healthy scratches to start the year. I don't think that happens anymore, but who knows? What do we do with this triple-headed monster here that I don't even know how to tackle? Like we talked before the show, it almost makes you want to just say screw all these guys, because are they gonna just eat each other up and all of the volume is going to be spread out? I don't know, man. It feels like this is an incredible matchup for them. They're gonna run. There's gonna be 30 attempts plus in this game, especially with a quarterback like Tyson Bagent. Dante Foreman to me seems like the guy. What are your thoughts here, man? If Khalil Herbert plays, are you expecting him to get a ton of volume?
Look, man, I don't have that strong of a tank either way here. I think I'm more apt to probably not play any of these guys if Khalil Herbert's active, but Carolina sucks dick when it comes to stopping the run. So it might be a foolish play to not play the running backs here. That said, Dante Foreman, if Khalil Herbert's in, 8,600 is a little expensive, but again, right? What did he have? 3 touchdowns in that one game 2 weeks ago. He has one game as the RB1. Outside of that, he's kind of struggled. Doesn't have 100 yards on the season, but yeah, again, like if there's a game to break that narrative, it's against the Carolina defense. So I think they're fine. Play 8,600 Dante Foreman. Khalil Herbert at 4,200 is probably not somebody I'm too interested in coming back from IR. But if for whatever reason we think he's going to get full volume and return to a starting role, 4,200 is a misprice. So I do want to say that. Outside of that, 3,600 Rashawn Johnson, especially if Khalil Herbert's limited or doesn't play, he actually might turn into like one of the better plays on the slate. If Khalil Herbert's out, he'll probably be chalky as fuck, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Roshan is in a good spot if Khalil's out. But if we get reports that Khalil will be on a snap count or something like that, I really want to see that. Ideally, Herbert will be out for this game when it comes to DFS. If he's in, it muddies up the waters quite a bit. And then now we got Roshan and Darrington Evans, most likely, that we'll have to play around with. But it feels like to me, even if Khalil Herbert is in, it feels like you could kind of get some exposure to Roshan Johnson. I think Deontay Foreman and Khalil Herbert, they sort of eat each other up when it comes to first and second down. And then you got Roshan probably getting in on third down. So if Khalil Herbert's in, you might see Roshan Johnson's ownership absolutely crater, even though I think he's probably an okay play at 3,600. Let's go to the other side here. This is kind of gross. Chuba Hubbard, we talked about him. He's 8K. Clearly the guy. He's priced as if he's the guy. But, we haven't seen a whole lot out of him. This team is, potentially could be trailing in this game. They're going to come out and have to throw the ball. They're going to want to establish the run to help out their rookie quarterback, but it doesn't mean they're going to be able to. Miles Sanders is 5,200. He's a complete fade to me. And of course, I'm sure he'll get 2 touchdowns in this game, but he's not priced well. He's probably going to be less than 15% owned. So maybe if I was like super ballsy and I was just doing hand building a Millie Maker lineup, maybe I'd do a Miles Sanders lineup. But most likely I'm not going to play Miles Sanders at all. Blackshear got involved a little bit in the past game. I'm probably not touching him because there's just way too much value or better value that I'm comfortable with. What are you doing with Hubbard and Sanders? Doesn't feel like they're either of them, especially a guy like Chuba Hubbard at 8K is in a good spot here.
Yeah, man. I like Chuba Hubbard if he gets involved in the pass game. And that means he's probably going to be optimal at 8K. So I think you're probably best just playing him at captain and then maybe not necessarily stretching your salary and paying for him in the flex. Miles Sanders probably won't have much exposure to, but same situation. I think you're fine playing a captain lineup at 5,200 if he ends up with 2 goal line touchdowns. This is a perfect situation for a set game that we saw last year. Set as in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? 7 carries, no yards, 3 touchdowns. At 5,200, right? Miles Sanders does something like that. That's the optimal. Those are the only 2 guys I'll have in my player pool, but they'll be very limited on their overall exposure.
I feel like to me, Chuba Hubbard is a fade option for tournaments, and then I will put him in the flex in my single entry. That's probably how I'm rolling tonight, or whenever you're watching this. I guess it will be tonight. All right, so wide receivers, let's just stay on this side with Carolina. Thielen, 11.8K. He's still got it, dude. He's one of the top. What did I say earlier? He's like tied with Keenan Allen for receptions this year. He's got a ton of targets. He's on pace for like 140 receptions or something ridiculous. It's crazy. He's expensive. He's the most expensive guy on the slate. Now, there's an argument here that, maybe you could be under the field and then throw him at captain more. I don't know, dude. I think we could play him at captain in plenty of lineups because we have a couple $200 guys, a couple $400 guys to talk about. But he's got the best matchup here when it comes to being in the slot going up against this Bears defense. Jonathan Mingo and Terrace Marshall get big boosts with DJ Chark out. Mingo's 2,800, Terrace Marshall's 400. You'll probably see another guy like Amir Smith-Marset brought up from the practice squad, like another guy brought up from the practice squad for Laviska Shenault being out as well. So there's not a lot of depth here from these wide receivers. When it comes to matchups, you've got Jalen Johnson, who is the first rated coverage corner in the NFL, according to PFF, second overall. And you know who's up there at the top. You got guys like DJ Reed. Is he as good as him? I don't know. That's a good question. He's graded well, but he's going to be on the outside and he's going to move from left to right. He's not stuck on one side. So he's probably going to shadow a dude and it's probably going to be a guy like Mingo. So these guys are that's kind of scary to go up against a tough matchup. We saw it with Quentin Johnson going up against Sauce. He had opportunities, but he got absolutely shut down. I think that's a situation that can happen again in this game with one of these dudes. What are you doing here with Mingo and Marshall? I think Marshall is the play here at $400, potentially not getting as tough of a matchup, and he's cheap as hell, right?
Yeah, man. There's almost no risk playing Terrace Marshall at $400. I think he's in a very similar situation to Mingo, but probably in a less shitty matchup And again, he's $400. So if he gets a 0, he's not sinking your lineup. Now, keep in mind, he's probably going to be chalky as hell because he's $400. He'll probably be required for cash builds. Well, at least he'll probably be in the optimal cash builds going into the slate. Outside of that, Adam Thielen's great. Just to put it into perspective, nobody has second place on the team has less than half the targets that Adam Thielen has, and it's by like 43. Like he has 43 less targets on the year.
Yeah, he's going to get involved. I'm not ballsy enough to not play him with the field. Most likely, I'll just wherever he comes in, I'm going to play him. And like I said, we have enough value here, especially even on the other side of the ball. If we wanted to do 4-2s or whatever, to actually get him involved, he's probably the guy that you want. If you picked one dude on this offense, he's probably the guy you're going to want to get, even though there's some value that you can mess with. So the Bears. Ellie, are you fading DJ Moore on a Thursday night? I think you've learned your lesson. I don't think we're going to do that ever again, right? DJ Moore's 10.6K.
I don't know if I'm allowed to fade anybody anymore. Like, just to be completely honest.
Darnell Mooney had a pretty good game last week, 7,400. He's priced up. It looks like there's some chemistry there between Badgett and Mooney. He's in a decent spot. Trent Taylor, Velus Jones. I'm not touching Velus Jones. Equinemius St. Brown. He's not really getting a projection right now, but like I said, I think that instead of Tyler Scott, which you can't see here on the bottom of the screen, you don't need to see him. I'm not going to be playing him much because of this Equinemius St. Brown. He's $200. Dude, are you interested in him? Am I overthinking this with St. Brown here?
Yeah, man. I don't know if I'm interested in any of these guys. Again, we've got the $400 dude on the other side of the ball, Terrace Marshall. I think these guys are fine pivots. ESB, just because he's related to his brother, the sun god, I think he deserves a little bit of, exposure. But outside of that, I'm not getting too crazy with him.
So what are you thinking about DJ Moore? Like, this doesn't feel like a great opportunity for him in this matchup. With that price tag, I think you got to get him. You're going to have to pay up for somebody. And he's probably one of the guys you want to pay up for. But if we're interested in playing Moore and Mooney and like how many wide receivers can we get in a lineup comfortably? I think we probably want to go running backs. In fact, I probably would rather go 2 running backs than go 2 of these wide receivers. Am I crazy?
No, you're probably not crazy. I like DJ Moore a lot. I think that he's underpriced. Just just 1-to-1. I don't think he should be lower priced than Adam Thielen. I understand that Thielen's going to get a shitload of targets and volume, but it is what it is. I like DJ Moore on this slate. That's probably that's probably a bad thing. I hated him the night that he had his career game. So I don't know, man. Like that's where I'm at.
All right, tight ends. So Cole Kmet should be good to go here. He's 6,600. He had 2 touchdowns, dude. He's looked good. He's been one of the top tight ends in the league over the past 3 weeks. Robert Tonyan, 1,400. Mercedes Lewis, he's $200. This is a showdown slate with Mercedes Lewis. I'm going to lose money playing him, but I'm going to do it. Cole Kmet's in a good spot, dude. He's 6,600. He's a good captain option. I feel like there's a situation here where you could be heavy on Cole Kmet and not regret it. Thoughts?
Yeah, man. He's priced nicely too. Like his ceiling is really what we're looking for when it comes to GPPs. He's got two touchdown games this season. So if you think that's something you can do again at 6,600, he's going to be an optimal captain. But even at 6,600, I don't think he's too expensive to play in the flex. Don't mind Robert Tonyan at 1,400. But again, like I still think $400 dude is the way that I'm going. Terrace Marshall.
If for some reason Cole Kmet is out, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen because he's not carrying a designation. But just in case, Robert Tonyan would be a smash play at $1,400. You'd have to think. Let's go to the other side here. This is interesting because coming into this year, Hayden Hurst, he was getting a lot of love in best ball. I have a ton of him in best ball. I thought that he would be a pretty damn good option this year. He hasn't really done great this year. He hasn't really stuck out too much. He's $4,800. Guy like Tommy Tremble has actually been getting a lot more run lately at 2,400. He scored a touchdown 2 weeks ago. He's another value guy that you can probably consider. But, you sent me something earlier today that basically said that this Panthers team is running basically 100% 11 personnel. They got one tight end on the field at all times and three pass catchers or more. So, man, Hayden Hurst, if Tommy Tremble is taking some snaps from him, I don't know, man. What are you thinking with Hayden Hurst? He's $4,800, so it's probably easier to pivot to a kicker on the slate. And you're looking at a guy who's probably going to be 15% owned. So are you interested in him? And what are your thoughts on Tommy Tremble?
Yeah, I like Hayden Hurst, especially for a large field GPP. I think that he's an interesting play. Just again to your point about price, I think people will settle on kickers kind of in that range. But look, I think that note is really interesting. Last week, Panthers ran 11 personnel 100% of the time, which just seems arbitrarily insane. Like that just seems fucking unreal, right? Like I don't know that they can continue that. I don't know if they can even do 80%, right? Because now they don't have DJ Shark. So I mean that brings up the question of like, is Terrace Marshall all of a sudden going to be on the field for 100% of the snaps as wide receiver 3? Now, if he is, obviously $400 dude is the way we're going to go. But I just don't know that trend can continue. And I'll bring it back here. This matters for this discussion, right? I don't know you're going to do 11 personnel 100% of the time next week. I think Tommy Tremble is going to see the field,
Yeah.
especially if they end up in the red zone, right? That's a great opportunity. That's where Tremble gets involved the most, right? He has a touchdown on the season. He's going to get involved in the red zone 2,400. If he has a touchdown, 8 yards and 1 reception, he might be optimal.
And I think that maybe because of the depth at wide receiver for Carolina, maybe Hayden Hurst gets involved a little bit more out wide or in the slot or whatever. And maybe you see Tommy Tremble hanging out in line. So I think either one of these guys is an okay value option, but there's just so many other value options that I probably will be getting to. Let's go to defense and kickers because we have to talk about that. Cairo Santos, 5K. All right, DraftKings, we get it. Let's keep these guys under $4,600. Eddie Pinheiro, 4,400. Here, let me sort by salary here. And then we got Bears defense 46 and Panthers 4K. So this is a 38.5 point total. We probably have to prioritize getting these guys in. And if you're using an optimizer, if you're using SaberSim like we're using, you're going to end up with a decent amount of these guys. Any reason to limit them? Any reason to not want to play either kicker and then mix in a handful of defense on both sides?
I mean, first of all, wasn't Eddie Pinheiro on the fucking Bears at one point? Like,
Probably.
that might just mean I'm not playing both kickers. Like, I don't play Bears kickers by default. And then I'm pretty sure Eddie Pinheiro was a Bear at one point. But all bullshit aside, I think this is fine. Both teams suck on offense. There's a realistic chance that we get a bunch of drives that stall within field goal range, and both kickers are in play. It's ugly. It's bullshit, but I do think this is a game where you consider both kickers in the same lineup. I also think both defenses are in play. But again, right, like this is a sloppy game. You're expecting like a 27-17 score with, the Panthers 2 touchdowns on defense. I don't know. Like, I don't know, man. These are bad offenses. You could see some bullshit here.
I mean, Bryce Young did throw 2 pick sixes last week. I feel like this is an opportunity to potentially get, you're relying on fumbles and, you're relying on a defensive touchdown or a special team touchdown. Both of these teams' pass rushes suck ass. Carolina's missing Brian Burns. Bears defense, yeah, they got Montez Sweat. He was only in I think a handful of snaps last week in his first game, strictly as a pass rusher. So maybe we get some sacks in this game. It feels like what offensive line is gonna suck more is kind of the deal here. All these guys are in play. I think most people are gonna be doubling up on these defenses or getting at least one kicker. If you think that this could be one of these sloppy games where maybe some random points are put up just because of the defenses are so bad, well, maybe you go under the field on some of these. All right, so let's get to our captain option, dude. Let's do it, man. We're gonna crown their ass on DraftKings.
Now, if you want to crown them, then crown their ass.
Ellie, you're going DJ Moore. Is this to make up for the DJ Moore fade, or do you what are your thoughts on DJ Moore in this matchup with Ted Nugent throwing him the football?
I look, man, like if I look at this slate just from a fucking football perspective and I list the best players on the field, it starts with DJ Moore.
Yeah.
At a certain point, he's mispriced. Like, fuck it. Like if I'm gonna bet on a guy to go off, it's gonna be the best guy on the team on the fucking field.
I've got Dante Foreman, and no, this was not planned as a revenge game narrative for our Crown Their Ass segment, but it exists. Foreman was let go from them, and DJ Moore, this is like a legit like FU to his former team at this point. Somebody has to actually throw him the ball, and he has to actually get open. But hey, man, like if anybody's going to be motivated to absolutely crush in this game, it's going to be DJ Moore. Let's get to our fade of the night. Let's do it.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Ellie, you're fading Tyler Scott. I think it's probably a pretty smart play here. I'm probably not going to get to a ton, especially with St. Brown coming back. It's kind of a question mark as to whether, who's going to get those snaps, but it feels like probably St. Brown cuts into the snaps of Tyler Scott. I'm going to fade Chuba Hubbard, and by fade, I'm not getting 0. If let's just say he's, what do you think, 40% owned? I'll probably get to 20%, 15 to 20%, and then I'll probably, like I said, put him in my single entry. Thoughts? Anybody else that you like are on the edge of being like, I don't really want to play him?
Yeah, I really don't have any too strong takes on this one. Obviously, my fade is Tyler Scott. So, yeah, man, I don't know, dude. Like, it's just one of those games where both teams are so bad on defense. Carolina's not awful, but they're bad enough. They're undisciplined teams. They give the opposing team too many opportunities to succeed. I'm just not comfortable taking too strong a stand anywhere, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Let's get to our lineup builds. Make sure you guys join that Discord. That's free. Also, we're doing our Monday night shows. That's to YouTube members. So click down below, click join. That's $3.99 a month. We appreciate it. It helps us out. And you get the Monday night show every week. And sometimes you get 2 Monday night shows, depending on, the holidays are coming up or whatever. We'll have to figure that out. But like I said, that Discord is free, and we're in there constantly talking about these matchups, updating any news that comes out. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you could see, but I got a free shirt here. Actually, let me shout out our boy Turbo in the Discord. Thanks for sending the 3. Oh, there it is. Free shirt. American Drill Stem. Appreciate it, man. Let's get into our builds. So what are we doing here, man? Like, let's start with our like $100, $50 single entry with like a less than 1,000 entrants. We got to get a little bit different, but not too much. We want to stick with some higher owned players and play it high floor, play it safe. Who are we using at the captain spot for these single entries? Any thoughts on that right now?
I don't know, man. Normally I would go DJ Moore, but this is a tough slate. So I guess probably we got to look at your captain, Dante Foreman, right?
Yeah, let's try it. I think there's some decent builds to be had here. So we got to get Thielen. Now, I think we probably got to try to get DJ Moore here. Let's put in Hubbard to start. You got to probably expect 15 carries out of him. And like we were saying earlier, if you're skipping around, this Bears defense is not good against the running back when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield. They're good against stopping the run. But, if Hubbard can get a little bit more involved and get some more targets in this game, he's probably going to be a pretty good single entry option. Where do we go from here, though, dude? Is this a kicker situation? Do we want to get DJ Moore in? Do we want Bryce Young? Do we want Ted Nugent? We want one of these quarterbacks that are relatively priced?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would lean probably towards Bryce Young, to be honest with you here.
I agree. Let's get our boy Terrace Marshall Jr. here. Leaves us with 7,100. Look at this, dude. We got Cole Kmet. You can leave a little bit of money on the table. You go down to one of these kickers. Probably a guy like Kmet is a solid. Now, this lineup here, I can guarantee is going to be duped a million times in GPPs. But for a single entry, I would be comfortable throwing this in. We got Foreman at captain, Thielen, Hubbard, Young, Marshall, and Cole Kmet. You like this one? I think it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's pretty solid, man. I like that for single entry.
Yeah, make sure you're in the Discord. For YouTube members, we'll be sharing the we'll be sharing our single entry that we're going to be entering. And obviously in the Discord, the main chat, we'll be talking this up as we get closer. Do you want to build a different one without Foreman? That was way too easy, especially with Terrace Marshall. Do you want to go Thielen at captain here for a single entry?
Yeah, sure.
All right, so Thielen, do you want to go young with him?
Yeah, I think we need to.
All right, so talk to me, Goose. Like, is this a Foreman in the flex situation? Do we fade him? Do we go Hubbard and Foreman? Let's just put Terrace Marshall in here right away. And honestly, if you have another play on a cheap guy that you think is going to get some run, you probably could do that as well. But what do you think, dude? One of these running backs or both?
I think we can fade Chuba here. Go ahead and throw in Foreman.
You want to go DJ Moore?
Can we afford it?
Yeah, we sure can. It leaves us 2,900. So you're going to get weird here, but you got a guy like Mingo. You got Tremble. Now, this is a single entry, so you're slightly punting twice. And maybe too many pass catchers here. So, here, let's try this. Let's go Chuba. Let's go DJ Moore. Let's see if that buys us enough. Not really. Can't even get to Foreman or any of the kickers, obviously. So that's where we're at when it comes to Thielen and captain. It's a little bit difficult to build with him. Where would you be comfortable with? I mean, like, I feel like Mingo, that's too much. It's too much Carolina here.
Just pull out Moore, throw in Foreman.
Let's try it. It leaves us with 5,500, so we got plenty of options here. You got one of the kickers. So this is a 4-2 with Thielen, Young, Marshall, Hubbard, Foreman, and Santos. So you're going to have to expect that Bryce Young comes out and has a pretty good game, having multiple pass catchers in here. And Hubbard, you're probably relying on some pass catching as well. So this is a very heavily skewed towards Carolina here. Let's do some tournament lineups here. So who do you want to build with? You want to go throw DJ Moore in at captain right off the bat?
Yeah, sure.
All right, where are we going, dude? Is this a 4-2? What's the game script here that we're building out? What happens in this game if DJ Moore is the optimal captain?
I mean, look, man, I like throwing in Ted Nugent.
Yep.
And I'll be honest with you, man, I still like Bryce Young, and then Terrace Marshall.
All right, let's start there.
That's where I would start.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got plenty, dude. We could go high with Thielen, and then go low with the last spot here. Let's just try that and see what it does to us. 2,900. So tournament builds. Put in Mingo. Put in Tremble. Put in Evans if Herbert is inactive. There's plenty of dudes. You can even go down to Scott or any of these other Equinemius St. Brown here. You could leave a lot of money on the table potentially. You want to do something different here?
Yeah.
With DJ Moore? Let's try something different. Let's do DJ Moore and Foreman and then do a 2-4 or something.
Sounds good.
You want to try that? All right, so let's put Bryce Young in. Let's put Thielen in. Let's put Terrace Marshall in. What does that get us? 3,500. Jonathan Mingo. So this feels like a Chicago winning type situation with garbage time in the fourth quarter type build. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
This is like 20 pass attempts in the second half type of night for Carolina. I actually like that. That's pretty nice. Let's clear this out. Let's do another build. Where do you want to go, dude? You want to go Hubbard here? You want to mix in some Mooney or Komet? Do you want to go super low? Do you want to put Terrace Marshall at captain and see what happens? Just try it.
Yeah, fuck it.
Let's click all the top dudes. Keep clicking. I'm still clicking. Oh, can't do that. All right, 5,800.
You gotta pull out Justin Fields, man.
Oh yeah, that probably hurt us there. Let's go. All right, Hubbard. So you got. This is the type of build that if Terrace Marshall comes out and gets 5 receptions for 50 yards, you might still be okay. Ideally, you want him to score a touchdown.
Cash build, to be honest.
This might be a reasonable cash build, dude. To be honest, you're right. Marshall, Thielen, Bagent. Damn it, I don't even know how to say this guy's name. Moore, Bryce Young, Hubbard. We know that could work, and I think that this will be relatively popular. So maybe you leave some money on the table here and go down to Mooney or Komet or something. What's next? You want to do like Hubbard or Mooney or Komet? Who's your favorite here?
Let's go Mooney.
All right, Darnell Mooney, baby. So what's the game script here if Darnell Mooney goes off? You want a 3-3? We probably want to stick to a 4-2, 5-1, 2-4 situation for tournaments. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think you could just go back with Foreman, to be honest with you, and just see what we can get for Carolina 4-man run back.
Let's do Bryce.
Thielen.
Bryce. You could do Hubbard and Terrace Marshall. Let's do one without Terrace Marshall, just in case if somebody doesn't want to mess with him. So let's go medium. Sure. Let's go middle of the road here. Santos. No,
yeah, I mean, do
or
Santos,
Pinheiro.
Hayden Hurst and Pinheiro. That should work, right?
Not quite. Let's get Pinheiro in here first. 4,300. So if Herbert's active, if you wanted to do something weird with Panthers defense, you could do that. You could go Roshan, Mingo, or Tremble, kind of whatever you're thinking there in that last spot. In theory, this is like 4 or 5 builds just with this. You know what I mean? And just rotate those last guys out if you're hand building. All right, Ellie, what did you learn, dude? This is a dog shit game football-wise, probably. But I think there's some leverage to be had here fantasy-wise. And like I said, I just feel like there's opportunity for people who maybe just aren't paying attention as much as they should be for a shitty game like this. What'd you learn here? What do you think our best options are for build and roster construction?
Well, I think the one thing that stuck out to me the most is just there's a lot of flexibility from a salary perspective. We're not as tight when it comes to some of the other slates. So when we're consciously trying to leave a little money on the table, we might need to leave just a little bit more on a slate like this because it's so easy to get to some of those guys that we want, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing that I learned.
What's your final score prediction, and who's a low-owned guy you think can score in this game? Not to put you on the spot.
27-17. I do think Carolina wins this, to be honest with you. Low-owned guy that I think can score. I don't know, man. I guess I can go with Hayden Hurst.
I think that this is a Bryce Young victory. I think he's going to come back. I'm hoping that they've changed something on offense. Their offensive coordinator, you know, they switched off. Well, they switched the play calling abilities from Frank Reich to Thomas Brown. And it hasn't really worked out well. In fact, you could argue that their offense has been even worse since he's been down there. So I hope that they just introduce some motion, do something to help Bryce Young out, introduce something that can get him some time that he needs, or misdirect this defense enough to where he can actually throw the damn ball. But to me, I feel like this is a Bryce Young win. I'm going to go 24-17 Panthers. When it comes to low-owned guys, I honestly think that a guy like Roshan Johnson, if Herbert is active, nobody's going to play him. And I think he's got a chance to get involved in the pass game a little bit more. All right, we appreciate you guys. Make sure you like this on the way out. Let's get to 50 likes. Make sure you guys join that Discord, and we will see you for Sunday Night Football.